Good morning, my creative friends. Happy Monday. It is March 27th, 2023. And yesterday was a gorgeous sunny day. And today we're having a blizzard outside. It is snowing and blowing like crazy, but such is Colorado in the spring. Thank you so much for joining me for Painting in Your PJs Live. I'm Dr. Minette Riordan, and I started this series back last December of 2022 to really connect with my community, to inspire, to just chat and gather around all things related to art. There are so many different reasons why I make art. I make art to relax, to play, to experiment, but I also make art as a means of getting to know myself better on the page. Come on, Georgia. You gonna come say good morning to everybody? Come on. She's sitting down here below my feet, trying to decide if she's going to come up or not. The other one's walking behind the computer. It's definitely a kitty cat cold morning, and they're wanting to come and visit. Good morning, Judy. And I started this series as a way to just sort of share my own creative process and talk through the things that are going on, how I work, how I use art as a means of personal storytelling and a way to heal and transform anything that I might be feeling. And when I got up this morning, I had no idea what I wanted to do today. And I was just stayed in curiosity. My table was nice and clean because I taught a class this weekend. And what I felt drawn to this morning was doing some intuitive collage because I love collage. I think it's a powerful way of telling ourselves stories or revealing untold stories that are ready to be revealed and shared with us. And remember, this is often a process that's just for us. It's not meant to be shared on social media. I'm not in this to make the pretty art or the perfect page that's share worthy. I'm here to get to the core of what's going on with me. Good morning, Tori. I'm so glad you made it. Welcome, welcome. Happy to have you here. So I'm going to switch my camera here. So I grabbed a couple of boxes of collage materials, and I've just been sort of going through the boxes and seeing what I was drawn to. And I'm noticing what I'm being drawn to already is contrast, right? Like here's the sort of it's raining head in the clouds, and here this super, super joyful puppy. There's a gorgeous piece of paper. So I just started flipping through, trying to find. I'm always so drawn to this portrait of the artist. I don't even know who this artist is, but actually, I'm really drawn to this portrait here. So I'm just going through quickly, and I give myself just a few minutes to go through and pull some images that are speaking to me. And I have prepped these images ahead of time. I will often sit in front of the TV with a couple of magazines or old books, kind of drawn to that creepy little mask there, and cut images, pull images out of magazine, trim words away. Because then when I sit down to do collage, I'm not, love that little dad and his little girl. I'm not stuck wanting to read the magazine, right? I'm really just in here. Oh, look at that one, Sleeping Beauty, but it also feels like an image of rest, which is one of my 6 pillars of a radiant life is deep rest because I know we don't rest enough. All right, so I have a variety of images of people. What's missing is maybe some background, and I might paint that background. So let me get all these put back in their box. I got piles and piles of stuff. I have hand painted paper in here. These butterflies are kind of fun, so maybe we'll pull those out as well. And I tend to sort my images into boxes. I love these big plastic 12 by 12 jewel cases. And a lot of times I will sort, and they're a little messed up right now, but usually they are sorted between backgrounds, people, and animals. So this is a habit from my soul collage days. So I was looking for some interesting Actually, this one's really pretty. So this was from a free book that I found that was a book of labyrinths that you could draw and trace, and it's had some beautiful images. So I probably have enough to start. You can see I have a lot of images. And sometimes images are great for colors and patterns, like some of this, like I love the green of her pants. Actually, I love her just sort of originality here. So we might leave her there on top. Love this one too, holding up a heart, and there's a dove, a peace dove. All right, so I probably have way more images than I need. And I'm going to grab my art journal. So this is the journal that I have been working in for the last few weeks that I made out of a hardbound magazine called Horizon. So I've been having a lot of fun working in this one. There's collage and stitching, doing some handwriting practice, right? I have some pages that aren't finished yet, but I went ahead and pre-gessoed over this page. And the reason that I gesso over the pages in this big journal is because this is thin magazine paper. It's very, very flimsy. And if I want it to take a lot of wet media, putting the gesso down is going to maintain the integrity of that paper. So I have this huge stack of things, and I'm just going to start sifting and sorting and to see if there's a story that's emerging here. There's something really interesting about this face. It looks like maybe a face of Mary or Jesus. Looks like maybe it's in a church somewhere. But the way that this is lit up and the rest is in the dark is really fascinating. This is on the back. You always got to turn them over. This is looks like someone's bulletin board with just a whole bunch of faces. So those are both kind of interesting, drawing me. So she might get cut out of there, or even if I cut this open, there might be a window peeking through. I think what I'm feeling drawn to here are these birdies. My husband and I have been doing bird watching as the birds are coming back to Northern California. And one of my favorite parts of intuitive collage, good morning, Kay, is actually the fussy cutting. And sometimes I will sit in front of the TV and just simply have fun with the fussy cutting. And she's got hair flowing all over the place. What I love about working with intuitive collage is that it often reveals stories that are waiting to be told. Already something interesting happening here that maybe we're not conscious of, right? It's one of the ways that I work with my clients when they're feeling really stuck, with my private coaching clients, is this idea of what's going on within. And we don't always know what's going on. And maybe we don't have words to put to what it is that we're feeling, like in these little music notes, like he's singing. And so collage can help us really reveal those untold stories. So to me, that's why it's such a powerful practice for working in our art journals. Fussy cutting is one of those activities that is so mindful for me anyway. It's like drawing or like stitching. You got to slow down, pay attention. I love this little butterfly too, so we might use that little butterfly somewhere. I don't like those little, can't really see those music notes, so I'm going to chop those out so we have this sweet little birdie. So I'm just randomly coming in and starting to gather things, and it's interesting. So again, I'm feeling a lot of contrast here. So between the sleep and the rest, and between here's somebody that's more dynamic. She's got a microphone, she's singing her heart out. And if I think about, what I've been feeling lately in my own life and work is really trying to find that balance between deep rest and deep work. And I feel lucky that most of the time my work feels like play. And sometimes more work is needed than others. They're kind of both like singing their hearts out there. Sometimes more work is needed and sometimes more rest is needed. And it can be challenging to figure out what I need when. And I am a lifelong overachiever, high achiever. Got good grades in school and have continued to strive for that. If I just push through, right? If I just keep doing a little bit more, I'll get there. Everything's going to work out. And what I've learned is that without deep rest, I actually don't have access to my creativity. That deep rest is one of the places where creativity is born. And sometimes rest is sleep, but oftentimes it's napping or daydreaming or being outside for a walk. That one's not feeling like the story today. I am liking these little white butterflies, so I'm going to see if I can grab a couple of more of those off here. They feel so this interesting. It's like maybe a dream world that's happening over here. So I'm just loving the story that's coming together. Again, I had no plan this morning. I'm just sitting in curiosity with what is it that wants to be revealed. My husband and I went to our favorite coffee shop in Loveland yesterday. And yep, needs those butterflies. And ended up spending an epic 4 hours just working on our business vision and direction. It was long overdue. And I'd been having a little bit of an identity crisis in my business because of some different programs that I was offering, some that are public, some are that are a little more corporate. I had an idea for a new program that wants to get birthed this year. And when we sat down and just took the time to put everything on paper and to really dig in to where we want to put our focus. So my husband works with me in my business. He does a lot of my marketing. So I love this simple page and how fast this has come together. And it's easy to get just really caught up in that day to day and lose sight of that big picture and lose sight of the core messaging of who I am and what it is that I do. So I had shared with some friends that I felt like I was having an existential crisis of identity, which is not normal for me, even though I know what I do. And as my husband and I really walked through everything, okay, it feels like this interesting dream world is starting to show up here on this page. I'm just trusting my own process. And I'm actually not, but it was clear that I was trying to take on too many new and different things all at once. And I just needed that time to come back to center. And so, one of my 6 pillars of a radiant life is deep reflection. And so, yesterday on paper in a journal, we spent, like I said, like 4 hours in this just deep reflection around, like, who am I? Joking, who do I want to be when I grow up? And so, I love everything that I'm doing, but I can only do so much. So we made some changes to our programs. We got some clarity around language. And I know not everyone listening is a business, but it's such a huge part of my life, right? And it can have such a big impact on everything else. And when things aren't working there, then I find it hard to rest. If I don't give myself enough time to just dream and play, I can get really out of sorts. So I had lots of studio playtime this weekend. I had fun teaching a class on Zentangle this weekend. I went to a wonderful event called Decadent Desserts, which was super fun. So I'm not feeling like this feels like kind of a sad image that's sort of cloudy. And this might have been me yesterday. And definitely not feeling that way today. Definitely feeling a little bit snowy. It's one of the things that I always work on with my private clients, Kay. I did not buy a handbag. It was a very strange process. So you had to buy a ticket and they sold a certain number of tickets and there was a certain number of bags and it was almost kind of like the a gift exchange at Christmas where the highest number got to go first and choose their bag first, but of course the person that got to choose their bag first had paid the most for the tickets, and it was different. The desserts were good, and I had a lovely visit with my friend that I met there, and we got to go and support our friend Julie, who was the speaker. So again, just having fun putting things down on the page, watching the story unfold. I had some words here as well from a vision board party that I went to recently. And I'm feeling very drawn to this one today. When we strive to become better than we are, everything around us becomes better too. But I'm don't want to lean into this striving energy, right? And change is really important. It feels like there's a lot of change happening right now. Believe you can, and you're halfway there. So this is a fun one too. Okay, I'm going to sit with the words. I keep being drawn to this image, but I haven't figured out what to do with it yet. But I love her sort of goddessy shape, and this is a very, very happy image. So that one might come. I also was really drawn to this sort of sheer piece of paper that might make a beautiful background. This is one of my son Connor Dobson's Sacred Circle designs from our Sacred Circles coloring book. And it almost feels like maybe the sun rising there. And I just loved the color of this mushroom. So interestingly, I have this dark palette over here, and I'm being drawn to, again, these reds and yellows. Seems to have been my palette of choice over the last several weeks. And I definitely have a thing for mushrooms and fungi and often take lots and lots of pictures of them. I think this is from a National Geographic magazine. National Geographics are one of the best magazines for doing intuitive collage because they have such a broad type of image. So definitely feeling that spring energy, that sense of emerging. And one of the things we decided yesterday that I'm super excited about is later this summer, I'm bringing back my signature Emerge program. I also have this hand stitched circle design. I love hand stitching. So this one's kind of the same color. So I just cut a bunch of circles of fabric, and you guys know I love including, good morning, Marion, including fabric in my journals. But I also had this fun sunflower. That one kind of matches the colors and maybe where we're going. So we're working on just intuitive collage for healing and transformation, for powerful storytelling is kind of the direction that I'm going this morning. And just seeing what I had down here what wants to be on the page. I think I'm feeling really drawn to this. This is one of my favorite designs that Connor ever created. And so, but it needs some color on it, so it might get painted up a little bit. So this definitely feels like a story, and I'm thinking maybe she needs to be over here. This is this story of, and actually maybe she's standing right on top of that mushroom, which feels sort of Alice in Wonderland like. And again, what I was feeling today was that the energy of contrast, right? There's something about her that, one, that I love the colors, but also she feels very focused, right? And a little bit, she's a Victorian figure, maybe a little bit buttoned up, and maybe this is the energy that she's really wanting to tap into. And over here, we have this sort of restful, dreaming state, which really feels like the birth of creativity happens in our rest state and when we're playing. It actually doesn't happen when we're trying so hard to think through things. And I wish you guys could. Can you see her? She's like trying to get as close as she can. Let's see if I can move my. No, that's my big camera. That doesn't help. So my cat, her nose is like right here beside my glue stick, and she's trying to get as close to me as she can without literally lying on top of my paper. I also love this swallow. There was a fun post on social media from one of the bird pages I follow. And they said, "What birds are you waiting to come back?" And I said, "The swallows," because we have a few places where they nest and soar above this irrigation ditch that's like in a there's a bridge over the road and they nest under the bridge. And when we first moved here last year, last May, I can't believe it's going on a year already, I had so much fun watching the swallows swoop and dive and listening to all their babies begging to be fed. And they are such amazing flyers. They're beautiful, beautiful birds. So I am still waiting for those swallows to come back. They definitely feel like a harbinger of that spring energy. So I married into a family of bird watchers. And so my husband and I have always enjoyed amateur bird watching. Hey, Missy, no stealing the glue stick. She steals things off my desk all the time. I find them everywhere. There's a fun little, so I'm looking even at these little tiny images, and there's a pretty little star. This is someone else's art that was quite beautiful from an old Stampington art journaling magazine. How's everyone doing this morning? I'd love to hear from all of you. What's new? What are you working on this morning? As always, just thank you for joining me live. Thank you for watching the replay. It helps me a lot if you just click the like button on that video. Feels like there's a story there with many faces. All right, Georgia, you got to shoo. If I leave fabric lying around anywhere, she lies on fabric. So that big sunflower. Good morning, Blanca. She's lying on that tiny little piece of fabric. So she just thinks it's hers. And I love, this was a quote from the artist who created the swallow image: "From the background noise while I create, to a groove, to a full piece of art based on song lyrics, music is everywhere in my art." And I don't often listen to music when I create, but I have noticed how much it can change what I'm creating if I do listen to music. So I'm curious, do other people listen to music while they're working? So I'm trying to decide if this needs some paint in the background. I'm working on in this big journal. So this is, these are pretty big collages coming together here. This one definitely needs some color. This one, interestingly, I really like the white frame around it. So again, I would say that this is really representing deep rest for me, and just the reminder that the magic happens when I'm resting and dreaming. And the greatest access to my own creativity comes from rest and from play, right? So I'm loving the balance here of being in the restful state and being very out in the world and very active. So I'm trying to decide if this page is asking for some color around the edges. Kind of love this piece that's sort of a little dreamy here, but nope, I don't think it needs it. I think it needs some just to glue these down, and that what's going to happen here is I'm probably going to do some journaling around the edges. So for me, intuitive collage is a multi-part silence unless I'm just coloring. Yeah, nice. Um, intuitive collage is a multi-part process that starts with, and it's time for a new glue stick, that starts with cutting out images and having images to pull through. So the first stage of the process would be to randomly select the images. Sometimes I create intentional collage, which is different than intuitive collage. I have a story that I want to tell. And when I have a story that I want to tell, I might look for very specific images. So I'm just gluing the front piece together, and then I'm going to glue the whole thing down. So the first step is selecting the images, then fussy cutting, placing them down. Sometimes I let them rest for a while. I don't always glue them down right away. So this one's not feeling complete yet. This one came together super fast. So selecting the images, gluing the images down, and then the final stage is journaling with the story, really tapping in and looking at what is the overall story that's wanting to be told here, what is the untold story. I might even spend some time looking at this idea of deep rest, right? Like this doesn't feel like rest, but it does feel like dreaming. We've got this bird singing, we've got butterflies, which are all about transformation. And all of these are sort of revolving around this sacred face in this chapel image here in the background, which is kind of interesting. So there's a story that's being told by the whole piece. And then maybe there's some stories that I want to dive into. So, what does the bird have to tell me is a great question. What do butterflies symbolize, right? And I ended up with two birds here. What is it that I'm dreaming of, or maybe even longing for as I go about creating this page? And that is the end of that glue stick, so that one might need another layer a little bit later on. And I'm even letting that heart just hang right over the edge of the page. I love things that hang, peek out, but really love the story of this page. Love how fast it came together. And again, this is a page for me about deep rest, which is often about the absence of input. And maybe that's one of the reasons I don't always listen to music. I like silence when I'm creating because then I'm really in that sort of restful, intuitive. And for me, how I describe deep rest is the absence of input. It's the absence of input. It's being in that silence and stillness with ourselves. That might be meditation for some people. I'm just cleaning up scraps. I'm a very clean collage person. I get a little overwhelmed if I get too many little paper bits floating around. All right, so I'm curious about the story that's evolving here. Definitely feeling like this page needs some color on it. Again, I'm liking the white under here. There's something clean and sparse that feels expansive and restful, but loving all these other little images, but feeling I want to bring that pop of yellow. So I think I'm going to put a coat of yellow here on this mandala, and I'm going to have to go find another glue stick before I glue all of this stuff down. And when I'm doing this type of intuitive collage, I definitely use a glue stick. I could use matte medium, but it doesn't feel necessary when I'm not adding a lot of paint over the top of things. So I think this just needs a pop of color to pull everything together. And I'm sort of curious about, obviously I love the design of the sacred circles. They're pretty, they make me happy. But what else is going on? You know, I was just flipping through my boxes of collage, and this is just on a piece of plain printer paper. And I pulled this one out. I love the intricacy of the design, the creativity of it. My son creates amazing, what we call sacred circle or mandala designs. But I think they also remind me that even in that sort of, you know, joyful, deep experience and being deep in my work, which is very visible out in the world a lot of the times, it reminds me that I can always come back to this sacred, restful place. And so, for those of you that are seeking clarity, next steps, new directions, I highly encourage you to play with intuitive collage. It's amazing the stories that can unfold, and you can find your answers on the page. Where we oftentimes get really stuck is when we're overthinking, when we're stuck in cycles of overthinking, and things just seem to be spinning around in circles and we can't get connected to the truth of what it is that we really want. So I highly recommend intuitive collage as a powerful practice for clarity. All right, so this one's telling a very interesting story here. Not sure it feels complete yet or that I have all the right images. Blanca, thank you for saying that. The problem is you don't have enough magazine images to choose from, and it feels counterproductive. So we don't need lots and lots of images. I taught a class at one point. I think it was a gratitude class, and we were doing just little mini collages every day. And a woman picked up a free edible magazine at the local grocery store, and she used that throughout the entire process. And it was amazing what she created from that one magazine. So even one or two magazines is enough. I think what's helpful is, you know, spending that little bit of extra time ahead of time to create the stock of images, which helps a lot. And it's fun to go through the magazines. Um, I found at my local thrift store a bunch of old National Geographics for 99 cents a piece. A lot of times, libraries are selling old magazines. So any magazine will do. Also, used bookstores. Junk mail is another great resource. Um, Used bookstores that have, you know, cheap books, kids' picture books are fabulous. So it's not the always the quantity, but it's really trusting that you have enough. I think is part of the secret to that. Okay, so I'm loving this green back here, and I want to find, I think, some more green to finish up the background. So I'm going to go back to my box of images here. Don't need an orangutan in my picture. but I think maybe some of this nice leafy green to get that nature in there. And next time you go to the hairdresser, um, is another great place to say, ask them if they're recycling any of their magazines, right? Ask what they do with the old magazines. All right, so this one feels like it's starting to come together. Because these feel like there's a whole story on both of these pages, I'm almost feeling like I want to find a couple more of these butterflies and bring the butterflies to kind of tell the story across the pages here. Let's hear that. And today I did a lot of fussy cutting, but I often will when I'm working with clients privately, and maybe I'll do one of these tomorrow because I'm feeling it's feeling like maybe a collage week that I'll do torn paper only. It's amazing what you can create when you're working only with torn paper and you do get these really beautiful edges. All right, let's see if there's more butterflies on that image over here. And my tiny scissors. So there's one in the center here. So again, the final step of this process for me will be to let these sit for a while and then to come back and do some journaling and really explore this story. So sometimes these collages speak to me. I remember them. I might dream about them. This is especially true with my soul collage and journey circle work that I remember the cards, I remember the collages, and sometimes there's that story that gets revealed that wants to show itself again and again and again. So what I love about this is it's never one and done, right? It's never one and done. And oh, there's some bees on here too. Those are kind of fun. I was hoping for maybe one more butterfly, but I'm thinking maybe this little, excuse me, bumblebee here, or actually it looks like probably a honeybee. And you don't have to fussy cut. I just like to fussy cut. And I feel like when we take the time to cut images away from their backgrounds, then they tell new stories. And this little honeybee has very delicate little wings and antenna and feet, and I don't want to lose all of that. So I'm probably not going to get super detailed, but maybe we're going to have that. And this is that busy, active, out there page, so it feels appropriate to have that energy of the bee on it, right? It feels like almost like she's this sort of rising star, but it's going to require some transformation work to make that happen. So again, there's energy, right? There's growth, there's shining in the spotlight. But behind that spotlight, there's also these little shadowy faces back there. So what's the shadow side of always being in the spotlight? So again, just these fascinating stories that are coming out of a 100% intuitive process. I don't always know right away what the story is. So again, this one feels interesting, a good reminder. Again, there feels like there's a little bit of the shadow happening here with these faces and with this fierce focus, and yet there's this longing to play, to fly, to shine my light. So this one almost feels like a little bit of a mixed story where this one felt like it came together, and sometimes the ones that come together in like 5 minutes are the ones that are the most powerful and have the best stories to tell. So I'm feeling like this one is going to need to sit for just a little while before I glue things down. I'm wondering if I want some more color in that sacred circle design. I'm even wondering, now that I painted it yellow, what if it wasn't there? Or maybe if only part of it is there. So maybe it needs to get trimmed a little bit and there's only part of it, which feels interesting and like a different story. So when I get to this point where I'm not certain what that next step is, walk away. I have friends that will let their collages sit out in the open if you have the space for that, sometimes for weeks at a time, or maybe never even glue the images down, but they let those stories speak and talk to them across time, and they swap things out and move them around. Like as I'm looking, I'm like, well, what changes if I move that swallow over here? So there's all this bird energy that's happening over here, and well, that's kind of interesting. And the story changes. And what if she's not part of this story at all? So something changes there as well, right? So just allowing the images to play, to feel interchangeable, definitely feeling like this circle is too big. I think that's part of what's not feeling good right now. So I'm just going to cut the center of this out and make it a little smaller. And over in our teachable classroom, Connor gathered up 100 of his sacred circle designs. It is a digital coloring book. I love that because I print them over and over again and use them in a lot of different ways like this. And this piece will also get used, so this is something worth keeping. And I also love when I have original artwork as well as magazine images, so don't be limited by what gets incorporated into a collage either. So that feels better. So Hershey's standing out a little bit more. I think it was just too big, but now I definitely want that swallow. It's like a puzzle. It's a puzzle of me that I get to just explore and play with and see what evolves. And so, what I'm feeling next, again, I'm just sort of following my intuition here, following that story, and I'm wanting some clouds in the sky. So, behind that sun image. And so, this probably means that I would adhere this with some matte medium, get it down on the page, and add those clouds. Or I may be, so this is tissue paper. Not sure what's going to happen. So you can see how often I just keep playing with and messing with these images. And let's see if we can write with copy your own photos, which have meaning, and use them in collages. Absolutely. I do that as well, print out my own photos to use. So let's see if we can write on this tissue paper and just get a few little wispy clouds growing in there. And it's just breaking up that blue a little bit. And clouds in my mind are not a negative thing. No, Blanca, I do not sing. I do love to speak. I love being on stage and speaking. But no, I do not sing well. To me, it's just symbolic of the sort of being in front of an audience and sharing your light, which is definitely something I love to do. And I can often get people hangovers from doing a lot of that and need a break and a rest. after doing that, but definitely, and I have spoken in front of, two people, hundreds of people. I think the biggest audience I ever spoken was maybe in front of was maybe 300. So to me, it's, not that I sing, but that it's that she represents shining her light, right? She's just really singing her heart out there. Okay, so I'm loving those little clouds. They kind of broke that up. They provide rain and shade. There are some sunny days here where I am often very grateful for the clouds that bring some blessed shade. All right, so I'm going to move these around a little bit. So again, that's starting to feel just a little bit better, right? So we just notice that story evolving. And I'm so drawn to her, but it doesn't feel like she belongs on this page, right? It's almost like she's this watchful voice of caution or something, right? This Victorian lady. And I think I was drawn to her because of her colors, but she's really not part of this story, which is a story all about emerging, being in the spotlight, shining my light out into the world, taking flight. Look at all these images of flight. We have a butterfly, a swallow, and a bee. And as I look at these faces, really it's like it's her band, right? Her backup singers back here, that she's not doing it alone. She has a lot of support and she has a lot of fun doing it. So that story now is feeling a lot more clear, a lot better. And this lady is going to show up in something else. So love how this is coming out. And sometimes I will journal in another journal or book. Sometimes I want to journal right directly on the page. So I might just write around the edges. But sometimes I want that journaling to be connected and attached. And maybe I don't want everyone to read what it was that I was writing. So there's a lot of fun ways to attach writing, to put some hidden writing. You guys know I love envelopes. So I might even attach an envelope to the edge of the page. And I saw one in my box of stuff here. Let me see if I can find that again. Bear with me for just a minute as I dig through all of this stuff. So I had just a plain envelope. There it is. There is an envelope. Had some collagey bits in it. So it's really awesome if I want to keep what I'm journaling secret, but I want to make sure that it stays connected to what it is that I'm working. And I can paint this envelope. So this was a leftovers from a retreat that I did earlier this year. And so I can literally keep this into my journal. I can tuck that writing in here and it just becomes part of the page, which I really love. And I can attach that quite simply just with some washi tape. So I've got a little bit of washi tape here. So I'm going to attach this journal so that when I'm ready to do some of that journaling. Okay, we're going to try this. I don't use washi tape a lot, and all of mine is very old, so it tends to not want to unroll very easily. And now it's curling all up. Look at me and tape, total klutz here. All right, it's curling up on me. This was a long piece, and it's longer than I need, but that was intentional. So I'm going to put that half on the envelope. press it down really well, and then I will trim that edge there. Get it off my fingers. It's like working with silly putty. Oh, interesting. It pulled the color up off the collage, but that's okay. And then I'm going to come back over here to the edge of the page. And I want to make sure it's right on the edge so that it will fold in and get tucked away on that page. And I'm probably going to come in and either collage or paint this as well. In fact, I saw some gorgeous hand painted peepers in here. This is kind of a fun, fiery one, a leftover piece from my found objects class. So that might get glued onto the surface of the envelope, but I'm also going to go back over here and I'm going to put that washi tape on the other side as well. And if I had all my washi tape in front of me, I might pick a color that maybe matched this a little bit better, but I'm going to just use what I have right here in front of me. And washi tape can be painted like everything else. If you don't have washi tape, masking tape works great. I love using my paper tape for this as well. But this is just going to make sure that that envelope does not fall out. And I'm kind of loving these sort of fiery colors on here, so I'm probably going to take my glue stick and just glue that to the front of the envelope. Although I also really love this one. So something's going to happen with that envelope. But now I'm going to be able to just tuck a page of journal writing, just grab a piece of notebook paper or even some scrap paper and do some journaling. And as I'm flipping through my journal, that will stay connected to these pages so they don't get lost. So I think that's it for today. I'm not quite ready to glue these pieces down. They feel like they need to just sit there a little bit. But this is how I would use intuitive collage just to get connected with how I'm feeling in the moment, right? So in that in-between space of needing deep rest, I've been working a lot, including on the weekends. Georgia, stop eating. She's like literally trying to destroy my pad of paper right in front of me. You are not helping. That balance between rest and quiet and being out in the world shining my light. And when I say balance, I don't believe there's ever a perfect 50-50 balance of anything. It's more like a juggling act between rest and being in the limelight, right? And it's making sure that when I'm in one state, I'm giving my all of my attention to that state. When I'm in the limelight, I'm bringing all of me to that playground. And when I'm in deep rest and dreaming up new ideas, that I'm giving all of that, all of me to that process as well. So that's kind of what I'm thinking and where I'm sitting today. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you, Tori, for being here for the first time. Thank you, everyone else. It's always wonderful to be here with you. I appreciate you coming to join me. Now I have another cat in my lap, and I will be back tomorrow with maybe some more intuitive collage, but maybe we'll add some paint into the process. Have a fabulous day, everyone. Thank you, Blanca, and I will see you all tomorrow. Bye-bye.